Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another daily devotion. My name is Pastor Roy Carlin. I'm the pastor at Woodlawn Christian Church in Lake City, Iowa, and we do these devotions Monday through Friday of every week. We have been working our way through the Gospel of Matthew. We have made it today to the 17th chapter. We're going to look at verses 1 through 13, which is the Transfiguration. And this devotion I am recording to be broadcast on the morning of Wednesday, June 8th of 2022. Now, we left off yesterday, if you want to go back and look at yesterday's video, we left off with a very strange verse in verse 28 in chapter 16. Truly I tell you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. That's where we left off yesterday. And we didn't really address that verse at all because it falls into today's, the Transfiguration. We tend to want to digest that verse 28 and think that it's talking about the second coming, but it's not. He's talking about the Transfiguration. And so some of them, yes, John and James and Peter are with him and have seen him transfigured. So that's what we're talking about there. So let's talk a little bit more about the Transfiguration now that we've got the setting right. And talking about setting, yes, I'm not in my office today. I'm actually over in the library, over in the parsonage today. All right, so let's take a look at Matthew 17, 1 to 13. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became bright as light. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I will set up 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice from the cloud said, This is my Son, the beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Get up and do not be afraid. And when they raised their eyes, they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. And the disciples asked him, Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? He replied, Elijah is indeed coming and will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but they did to him whatever they pleased. So also the Son of Man is about to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood that he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. Yes, it confirms John's role there in being the one that comes before the king. He is the one crying out in the wilderness. So, but what we've got going on here, we've got Jesus taking the 3 inner circle up on the mountain, and things that happen on a mountain when we go high, this is something we want to pay attention to. This is the big thing. This is the Transfiguration. This is the exclamation point to Peter just earlier, having recognized Jesus who he was. And now here, Jesus has shown who he is. He is truly the Son of God. And God, we have this theophany of God being in the cloud and the voice, both an auditory and a visual theophany of God talking to them or testifying to them, witnessing to them, that this indeed is my Son and I am well pleased. It's the second time that's happened. We had that back in the baptism. Now the Transfiguration is one of those things that happens in all 3 of the synoptics. It's important, so it's in all 3. It's really very similar. There's only just a little bit of difference here at the end of what Matthew has. He talks a little more about the walking back and about John and such. But otherwise, it's very, very similar what Mark has and what Luke has and what Matthew has. And we talked about it back when we did the devotion over Matthew, or Luke rather, in his version of the Transfiguration. The point here is that you've got Moses, the books of Moses, you've the law, and you've got Elijah, the prophets. You've got the bookends of the Old Testament, and now you've got Jesus, the New Testament. But it's also the living. Moses died, but Elijah didn't. So you've got the dead of Moses and Elijah living. So you've got God, Jesus is the God of the living and the dead. So you've got that kind of a thing going on here as well. But the big part of this that we need to take away is Peter, when he sees this, he wants to stay here. We need to hang out here and soak all this in, as they say. But that's not what happens. Elijah and Moses leave pretty much immediately, and Jesus says, let's go. We got work to do. And that's the thing. Once we come to God, we find God, we discover God, we become a Christ follower. We don't just stay there in whatever that location is, and we don't just stay there in that moment. We have to move on. We have to do God's work. Jesus is calling us to spread his gospel. And his gospel is not just sitting there and worshiping him. That'll happen soon enough. When we get past from this world, we'll be in the kingdom of heaven with Jesus. And I believe that is a place of worshiping God and being in the environment of God. But here we're supposed to be doing God's work. So let's not tarry. Let's get out there and get to work, shall we? So with that, I'm going to let you go for today. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll pick up with Jesus curing a boy with a demon. All right? Have a blessed day, and please, please, please be a blessing to someone today. Take care and God bless.